Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. Check out my socks. They've got hamburgers on them. That's besides the point. I don't know why I did that. Seriously, get your shit together, Sam. Today's video we're going to be talking about friendships, but not just any friendships. They're going to be about being friends with an ex. I was having trouble figuring out what I wanted to film this week, so I posted a questions thing on my Instagram and somebody responded with this topic, so I figured, hey, this is actually something that I have a lot to say about, so why not film a video about it? It's kind of interesting because I'm kind of known as that person who is friends with a lot of her exes and people that I've been involved with, but it's also a topic where I get a lot of shit for it. Not necessarily from my friends or family, but more so from future relationships and potential prospects for relationships. I seem to have stumbled across a lot of people who I've either dated or I have been about to date who have had a problem with the fact that I am on good terms and honestly really good friends with a lot of the people that I've been involved with. So it's kind of bittersweet. It's not something that I'm willing to give up. I will always advocate for my friendships with the people I've been involved with before my future relationships. I mean, that could just be my own stubbornness talking, but it is something that I'm very proud to have achieved, and it's something that has really brought a lot of happiness to my life, so I'm not super willing to give that up for a boyfriend. Now, with that being said, I obviously understand how threatening and how uncomfortable it can be to be interested in somebody who's that close with their exes, but honestly, if you've gotten to the point where you know me as a person and you're willing to date me and you like me, then hopefully you would have realized it's just in my personality. Anyways, that's not the point. That's just kind of the backstory and one of the things that can be a little challenging with being friends with an ex, but I also know how hard it is for people to let go of someone who is that important in their life, who you spent months or years with, and that you will always cherish in your heart. And if I'm speaking from my own experience, I've actually found that being friends with the people that I've dated have ended up in much stronger relationships than the actual romantic relationship ever did. So let's get into how I kind of achieved these things. I'm going to be talking about what I think the best steps are when trying to become friends with an ex, and also the things that definitely helped me out and worked in my favor, because sometimes it's just not going to happen. I'm not friends with all of my exes. I'm not friends with all of the people that I've ever had any relationship with ever. It's just not natural to happen with some people, but when it does, it's really, really nice and just gives you all the warm fuzzies, you know? This video is going to be less of a structured step-by-step tips video and more so just me talking to you guys, because again, this is a really personal topic and I love it, but I also kind of hate it. For me, I think the most important thing after a breakup is really the blackout period. One time I made the mistake of breaking up with a boyfriend and then just jumping into a friendship like the next day. There was no blackout period, no moment of not talking, no moment of space. It was just relationship and then let's be friends. And while that is a fairy tale version and the ideal version of how you would want a breakup to end and a friendship to start, it's not realistic and it will set you up for a long road of recovery after. I found myself being really upset all the time, just really faking my emotions and pretending I was okay when I really wasn't. So I really stress that it is important to have a blackout period where you don't talk to each other, you don't see each other, you try not to think about each other, you try to reset and start your life as a single person before you start to try and build a new relationship with this person. A lot of the times, the reason a friendly relationship with an ex doesn't start and isn't successful is because you forget to rebuild the relationship with yourself after you broke up with them from your romantic relationship. It's so important to bring yourself back to an individual and build your relationship with yourself and be happy on your own so that you're not simultaneously relying on that person as a friend to bring you happiness. Because at the end of the day, they're going to do something that makes you upset, you're going to feel like you're still relying on that person, and it's going to be so hard to move on with your life. Now, the blackout period is different for everybody. It could take months, it could take days. I've had blackout periods that lasted a few weeks, I've had one that lasted 3 days, and the one that lasted 3 days is now the one that has ended up to be one of my best friends. Shout out Zena, what's up, buddy? But again, it really depends on the nature of your breakup, the nature of your relationship, all of that. Then after the blackout period, it's really important to have a sit-down conversation, which I know sounds scary. It's like, oh god, we already had the serious conversation of breaking up. up, but now we gotta have a conversation about being friends. But it's really important to just have one daunting conversation where you lay everything out and you get everything off your chest and you can just start fresh. If you try to be friends with your exes with still all this shit clouding your mind and you're constantly thinking of all these things that you never had closure with, it's really, really hard to put those aside and remember that you guys are starting a new, fresh friendship when there's still this black cloud looming from your relationship. So what this conversation can look like is, hey, I really cherished the relationship that we had. You were a huge part of my life and I want you to continue being a part of it, but at a friendship level, hey, these are the boundaries we should set for each other because God knows it's going to be hard to move past the fact that we've just spent X amount of time together as a couple. Hey, these are the guidelines of things you can and can't talk to me about. Hey, these are the things I want to know about. Hey, these are the things I don't want to know about. Hey this, hey that, you know what I'm saying, okay? Set some boundaries for what you want your friendship to look like. Maybe the most that you can give right now is that you're civil to them when you run into them, and then you'll work your way up from there. Figure out what you want and what you can handle as a friendship before you start graduating to more extensive things. For me, it was checking in, texting a couple of times, seeing each other in group settings, but not necessarily hanging out one-on-one, and then eventually kind of moving up so that we were more and more comfortable hanging out as friends. It's really important to start low and work your way up as opposed to just shooting to be a best friend right off the bat, because it's not realistic and it's just going to be harder for you to handle. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is what I like to consider the period of upset. That's not a really good name, but I couldn't think of anything, so don't judge me, okay? Basically, how I've always experienced it is that you start with your breakup, you have your blackout period where there's nothing, then you're suddenly giddy because you agree to be friends and everything's going well and you're like, yeah, I'm feeling okay, woo, single life, yeah, and then something happens and you get really upset and you question why you ever wanted to be friends with this person in the first place and you have a mental breakdown, okay? I don't know if this happens to everyone, but it's happened to me multiple times where something has happened to trigger a response that almost feels like we were in a relationship again, and it's just kind of the backlash of you remembering that you're still an ex even though you're trying to act like you're a friend. If that does happen to you, it's really important to just express that it made you upset. Try to think about whether or not you can axe that kind of feeling from your life from either that person not sharing those things with you or avoiding those situations in the future and then moving past it. There's not really a solution for these things. I feel like you just have to go through it, feel shitty, and then come back up and be like, hey, I let that out of my system, let's move on. It really is important to just remind yourself that you care about this person enough to keep them in your life, and it's not always going to be easy. So you're gonna have to go through a shitty period where it kind of hurts and it's kind of sad and you might want to kill them, and then you just come back up and you try again. Honestly, at the end of the day, what it takes is time. You're gonna have a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of ups again and then down again, and at the end of the day, what's gonna heal it and what's gonna make it easier is time. You're just gonna have to go through the shitty and go through the great, and you're just gonna have to be willing to get through it, and that's what's gonna set up your friendship with your ex. It doesn't come easy. A lot of people would rather not go through the stress, and honestly, there are times where I tell people not to do it because it's not easy, but I guarantee you if you can make it past that, it'll genuinely make your life better. The people who I've had romantic relationships with who I don't still have in my life honestly cause me more stress than the people that I had to go through the ups and downs with to become friends. Now, obviously being friends with an ex isn't for everybody. It really does come down to a few factors that either help or limit the amount of friendship you can have after a relationship. It definitely helps to be friends with that person before. 2 out of the 3 of my exes I was actually friends with for about 2 years before we ever started dating, and that really set up the friendship for after we broke up because it was easier to go back to what we were before. When you weren't friends with the person you were seeing with before, it's really unnatural to go back to something that never existed in the first place. Yeah, when you're in a relationship, you refer to that person as your best friend, but they're also more than that, and it's really hard to differentiate the two when you've never seen it without the romantic portion, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that it's impossible to be friends with someone who you weren't friends with before, but it's gonna take a lot more work and a lot more trial and error to figure out where your friendship lies and where your romantic relationship needs to sit on the back burner. Another thing that helps is the actual breakup itself. Let's say you're in a relationship and you haven't broken up with this person yet, but you know that if you ever did, you'd want to keep them in your life, or you're going through a breakup and nothing went wrong and you really care about this person and you are severing your romantic relationship, but you still want to keep them in your life as a friend. You really need to say that in your breakup because it's going to set you up for your friendship later. It's so much harder to break up with someone without expressing the fact that you still care about them, that you still want them in your life, and then going up to them later being like, hey, let's be friends. And don't just be like, so let's be friends? Question mark. Actually talk about the fact that you care about this person and that they made such a positive impact on your life and that you can't imagine not having them in your life, because these are all the things that they need to hear so that they believe you when you come back to them and you're like, hey, can we try being friends even though, you know, things didn't work out between us. And the last thing I want to say about this topic is that you really need to respect the other person as well as yourself. Yes, you need to think about the things that you can handle and the things that you want out of the relationship, but you also have to remember there's another factor, another person involved in the process. Let's say you were the one breaking up with the other person. You need to be respectful of the fact that you were in control in the breakup and now they are in control with the friendship moving forward. If they are hurt, if they're feeling upset or betrayed, it's really unfair for you to push onto them that you want to be friends, that you want to keep them in your life, because they're in a vulnerable place where they miss you, where they wish that things worked out between you two. So it's really important for you to take it in your hands to be respectful of their potential feelings. What this looks like is you saying, hey, I still care about you, I still want you in my life, but I understand that the breakup was my choice, not yours, so I want you to know that whatever you decide moving forward is in your hands. Whether or not you feel ready to be friends with me, or if you feel like it'll hurt you more or make you more upset, is totally up to you. So take some time, think about what you want moving forward, and we can talk about it from there. The last thing you want is to deal with the backlash of an ex being like, you forced me into this relationship and now you're going off, moving on without me, and I just have to sit here and watch as a friend. Anyways, I'm happy to have made this video. If you have any more questions about it, just let me know either on Instagram or you can let me know in the comments down below and I will get back to you. And I really hope it helped kind of paint a picture of what is realistic for being friends with an ex, because like I said, I love it and it is a really big part of my life. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, feel free to like and subscribe if you want, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye!